Hey, Dan, how are you? Awesome. Okay, everybody, we are live on YouTube right now. Welcome to We Wednesday, where we are in this together. The whole purpose for We Wednesday is I'll jump on and share some new revelation or insight that I've received over the last week. And as always, I've gotten a lot of them. So it's tough to sort through and see what I'm going to talk about. Dan Hendon is joining us, one of our amazing leaders within Life Transform. Thank you, Dan, for joining. And we may have other folks join. We'll just see how it goes. And this is totally unrehearsed. I'm just going to share what it is that I received. And Dan will comment on it if he sees fit, which I'm sure he will. There has never been a time where he hasn't. And then we'll just do a little back and forth banter. So I'll set this up with, this is one of those things where I know God had a message specifically for me. So I've got this routine in the morning where I'll source several different, where I use several different sources to access the Word, the Bible, right? So the first source I went to today, it was John 14:6. I am the way, the truth, the life, which, you know, I've heard of a lot. But the back part of this really gave me kind of a different awareness. To know me is to know my Father too. I was like, whoa, that is really cool. To know Jesus is to know God too. And I never really thought of it that way. I thought that's really cool. Because I was thinking, boy, I've got to have a relationship with Jesus. Then I've got to learn the character of God, which I'm sure I still, you know, there is some differentiation there. But just seeing that verse that way, I was like, oh, that's so beautiful. It gives me the ability to focus even just a little bit more on just, if I know Jesus, then I'll know God. So that was one revelation. But then I go to the second source, and it's about, and I'll just read it, eliminating habits of sin that trap you. Jesus is the answer. A continual state of surrendering control of every area of your life to Christ and being filled with His Spirit to live the life for which you were created. And then it quotes the same verse, John 14:16. Oh my gosh. So that's when I knew God is saying, okay, dude, you need to pay attention. And then it went on to talk about know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That's John 8:32. And the context of that was being spoken to the Jews who knew about God in their heads, but didn't know the person of Jesus. So that really helped me to get the context of that particular verse. So it's talking to people who knew all about God. They studied, they probably knew it, but it wasn't in their hearts. It was in their heads. They really didn't know Jesus. And then, you know, the part about Jesus will set you free. It'll set you free, which means it liberates you from any bondage to sin. Knowing Jesus, the word of truth, eliminates the power of sin in your life. How? You can confront lies by bringing Jesus in the word, right? Galatians 5:1, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. And freedom comes from the blood of Christ. Colossians says, in whom we have redemption through his blood. His blood cleanses us and sets us free from sin and death. So freedom is critical to live out your purpose. Without freedom, you will not have the faith to believe and step into what God has called you to do. Woo! So that whole thing to me, it just reinforces if I'm not the way to really step into the purpose that God has for me is to surrender and to know Jesus 100% because then I am free. I'm free to follow the Spirit. So it just gives me again that focus and then the surrender piece. Um, so that whole set of circumstances really gave me inspiration to stay on this path and to share with others where true freedom really comes from. Oh, and Dan we just lost Dan right when I was going to give him a chance to talk. But anyway, he'll probably come back. So that's what I wanted to share today is if you're in your life and you don't feel like you're living your purpose, well, there's a path to take to be able to live your purpose. Isn't that good to know? And whether you're a Jesus follower or not, I always tell people give it a try. Give it a try for an hour or for a day or for a week. And if it's true that the path to living your purpose, the path to freedom, comes through following Jesus, and that his blood truly did and does cleanse us and sets us free from sin and death. From both of those things, setting us free from sin and death. And sin, we all know sin, even if you're not a Jesus follower, it's your intuition. If it's like when oh gosh, this probably isn't the right thing to do. That's where the sin is. Anything that enslaves you, anything that you do habitually, that you're like, why am I doing that? Like if I'm eating chocolate cake every day, and I love chocolate cake, if I'm eating it every day, then that's something that's enslaving me in the moment. Hey, Dan. Hey, I said you'd probably be coming back. Well, did you hear enough to be able to comment? Oh, go. Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I love the way you articulated that. And that was really you articulated what the breakthrough was, the new awareness for me. It just brings it to life even more. And it is beautiful. And once you get it, like I know here, even in Asheville, I was talking to a local person, the gal that cuts my hair, and she's a big Jesus person. And she said, in Asheville, it's got its own reputation. I won't even go into all that. But she was telling me a story how her mother said, yeah, you can go in the middle of the Asheville Mall and talk about God, and everybody's fine, but you mention Jesus, and they'll be like, ah! So it's just so interesting, isn't it? And I was talking to somebody earlier today, and the fact that, and this has been one that's helped me too, that those who have eyes to see and ears to hear understand it. And people that don't, if you show them a Bible verse, they be like, what? Or you talk a parable, and they oh, I don't know. So that helps me too to understand those people that would react weirdly to Jesus. Well, they don't really know Jesus. And maybe they don't even have the eyes to see and the ears to hear and comprehend it. So the things like we're doing in our community where we welcome everybody and we just try to be Jesus. In other words, we try to be who he is teaching us to be in terms of our compassion and the way we treat people and all the things that we do. Because in our culture, sometimes the name Jesus can cause reaction. But if people know Jesus and I always say one of the things we're working on is creating a bunch of signs and going out on corners and just sharing, some of the teachings of Jesus that everybody that looks at him, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's good. Yeah. But then you say that's from Jesus to be like, well, so it's like taking on that, knowing the person of Jesus, and then taking on that person in the flesh. I think that's what we're called to do, is to carry that on, because that's what he came here to do. And that's what he came to teach the disciples and, teach us, and it goes on and on and on. So. um, right, right, yeah. Hmm. No, that's so good. That's so good, Dan. And witness, right? The world we live in. That's what we're dealing with. This whole spectrum, right? And it's just like everywhere in between. So, yeah, so even your statement there leads me to double down on just be Jesus. If we could just model, that'll probably go a lot further than even talking about it. You know what I mean? If people can experience it. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Boy, that is the way to wrap this up. Dan Hendon. Awesome, brother. You guys, thank you so much for joining us. Dan, again, my heart goes out to you, brother. Love you so much. You guys, join us every Wednesday at about this time. Wednesday live on YouTube. Reach out. We've got lots of ways to get in touch with us. As Dan said, you can learn more about our community. We've got a call called Path to Freedom every Friday at 3:15 Eastern Time, where you can jump on and learn more about us. I'm sorry, 4:15 Eastern Time. You can jump back on and learn all about our community. If you want some more information on that, just get a hold of any one of us. And until next week, have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening. Take care. Yay.